Hello and welcome to the NTI PodTalk. My name is Dianne Koehler and I'm Director of Nutrition Therapy Institute. Join me as I talk to interesting people in the field of health and wellness, food and farming, and anywhere else we find conversations that matter to our community. By listening, you'll learn a little about NTI and a lot about the things and people around you that make a difference for your wellness. Welcome and let's get started. Hello there. This is Dianne Koehler, Director of Nutrition Therapy Institute. Welcome back to another edition of the NTI Pod Talk. Today, I'm so excited to be talking to David Feuz, Dr. David Feuz, who is the Director of Nutrition Education at Holistic Consulting. And I'm going to let David tell us a little bit more about what holistic consulting is and then kind of more of his role there. But David, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks, Diane. I'm excited to connect and hopefully connect a lot of your listeners after this call as well. So I'll start with my story and then I'll
Yeah.
kind of lead into holistic consulting, why we started it, what we do, how we help folks. And so I think my story, as I was just chatting with you about, it resonates often with a lot of folks going into this field, right? Functional nutrition, holistic nutrition, because I'm a career transitioner. Just a few years ago, I was active duty and then reserve military. And so I got out of active duty in 2019. And then I was in the reserves for a few years. And, you know, going back a little bit further, I've always had a love for health and wellness, helped my mom in the garden, college athlete. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my undergrad. I went with criminal justice. Then I joined the military, still kind of just stalling for time to figure it out as a young guy, right? It's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard to pick your major. And
Yeah.
so the military bought me some time, which was great. I love serving my country. And then they obviously provide a lot of educational benefits. So I went back to
Hmm.
school and I said, let me just go for what I'm passionate about, which I know a lot of your viewers are doing as well.
Hmm.
And I said, let me go for functional and integrative nutrition. And so I went back for a master's degree and I wanted to get started in the field right away. I was like, what's the quickest way that I can start helping people? Because the master's degree is going to take 2 years.
Yeah.
So I said, let me do a personal trainer certification while I'm doing my master's. So I started working at a fitness center as a trainer and a nutrition coach. They had a nutrition program there, so I was able to do a little there. And, you know, while I was also finishing the master's. Once the master's was completed, I quickly started a business as a private consultant, and I knew I wanted to teach. And so I applied to, as many jobs as I could, and I got a teaching assistant job, and that eventually led to an adjunct position job, and then a curriculum developer job, and then a leadership position in higher ed. And so that's my story. I'm going to sprinkle in some parts of my story throughout the conversation today, I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
as there's a few parts that helped catapult my career. But you know, going back to grad school, I met someone named Sean. He's been on your program as well, Sean Emery, and we both realized really quickly, so many of our peers in grad school, and then we realized later when we both taught at the college level, many of our students, they would graduate from these holistic nutrition programs, really passionate, wanting to help people, love for food, love for nutrition, a lot of energy. And then they stepped foot a little bit past school when school was over and they were, they struggled. How do you get your residency hours? How do you start a business? Oh my goodness, the industry seems like it's set up for dietitians only. It's a little intimidating. It can seem isolating if you don't find your people. Um, and so I realized, hey, we can help people, Sean. And so what we did is we put together holistic consulting and we help folks build careers in holistic nutrition. And we do that really through four ways. The first is credibility and credentialing. And we are NANP approved, so the National Association of Nutrition Professionals. I know you are an NANP approved school.
Hmm.
And so folks that come through our program have the opportunity to earn the 500 required contact hours, which are often difficult to earn. Earn 40 NANP CECs to help you maintain your credential for 2 years. We'll talk more about board certification later, I'm sure, but it's great. It
Hmm.
helps you stand out in the field to employers and clients. And we also help folks create a professional network, right? Because oftentimes opportunities don't just come through job postings, they come through people.
Yeah.
And so we, I mean, there are, I think there's 150 members right now in our professional community group, to some degree at some level of our programs. And it's just great to see folks come together across the globe, really. We've got maybe 4 or 5 international members and, collaborate on challenging client cases, share best practices with business building, talk about the company they got a job at. We're actually having a career roundtable next week. Any of your members, if they email me, they can come to our career roundtable next week to hear what people are doing in the field.
Hmm.
And then the last two areas that we help folks with is or are um, building a business or obtaining employment, success strategies as a holistic nutrition professionals, and then advancing your education and clinical skills. We have a whole functional holistic nutrition training program, just to build those skills. A lot of folks still have imposter syndrome, and
Hmm.
so, we take them through our program. On the nutrition side, we have 17 modules, live sessions every week. And then on the business side, that which Sean runs, Sean owns 6, 7 companies now, very well versed in entrepreneurship. He has training programs, live sessions, and then one-on-one meetings with folks as well, just to build the business, after creating the vision for the business as well. But we've been doing it for 4 years now, and every year it's grown with demand. Everyone just really appreciates it. It's great to help folks connect people together, just bring awareness to holistic nutrition in the field.
Hmm. Well, and that is so important because
Hmm.
this pod talk is publicly available. We have a lot of people who are not currently students or graduates at NTI. They are sort of interested in nutrition and kind of understanding things, and they may be thinking about becoming a student, joining the ranks of being a holistic nutrition professional. But I think a lot of people still don't know what that means, holistic nutrition. Like, what is holistic nutrition? And you mentioned, like, sometimes it can seem like the only availability in this field is registered dietitian, and registered dietitian is different than holistic nutrition and holistic nutrition professionals. So let's talk about what holistic means. And I'd love to get your take on it. We have some information on our blog or on our website, on our blogs, on our website that talk about, like, what does that actually mean? But I think it would be great to get your perspective, and have people hear your definition and how you talk about it with anyone, just a kind of a general person off the street. And these are the people that I really want to be able to attract, to let them know that this is a thing. Because I think, sorry, and I'm going on here, but I think that one of the biggest obstacles is that um, people believe that they know everything there is about eating healthy because our um, food labels tell us that it's healthy. They got all the big words on the front that says this is healthy, eat this, low fat, low cholesterol, all the kind of stuff. All the food packaging tells us that this is healthy. And then you go to the doctor or the hospital or whatever, and you talk to what they call a nutritionist, but it's actually a registered dietitian. And the information that is being relayed by the registered dietitian, um, a lot of times doesn't really feel in alignment with, like, making real, true, impactful dietary choices. At least that's my perception. So I think it would be great if we talk about, like, what is holistic nutrition and how is it different than what the information and the education you would get as a registered dietitian.
You're going to have to stop me here because we're going to go over time with this one. No, I'll start with this. I think I'm really qualified to answer this question because I have gone to school with registered dietitians. Half of my functional and holistic nutrition master's and doctorate program consisted of registered dietitians seeking to learn what they missed in their curriculum. And
That
so
that's
I've,
great.
it's great. I've been
Yeah.
able to pick their brains for years. I mean, multiple years in a master's, multiple years in a doctorate. I worked with a dietitian at the first gym I worked at. I work with some dietitians now. So I am constantly in conversation with both sides of the industry. And it's put me in a position to help educate folks on the differences so that they can educate their clients on, hey, I'm board certified in holistic nutrition. This is what it means. Or, I'm a graduate of the NTI, and this is what it means because you got to get the message out to people,
That's
right?
right.
And so this is what I often tell people. Holistic nutrition, I tell people two parts. I just like to simplify. Two main parts of what holistic nutrition means. That you can't do the second part until you know the first part. And it's very difficult for the person off the street to know the first part. So it's really important to work with a professional. The first part of holistic nutrition is it includes understanding that the body is a system of interconnected parts. If you don't know how the systems are connected, how they influence each other, um, and understand how symptoms are actually clues for underlying clinical imbalances, then you cannot do step two. And step two in holistic nutrition is obviously providing that holistic whole person support through nutrition, stress management, understanding someone's culture, their budget, their preferences, their environmental exposures, and understanding, wow, what are sources of arsenic? What are sources of PCBs? What should my client be avoiding to reduce their mold exposure? They just had a mold test. Um, you need to understand environmental toxins and you need to understand genetics a little bit, at least know it exists. There's training programs, continuing education programs out there if you want to specialize in genomics, nutritional genomics. But the first part, again, is really first you have to holistic nutrition includes understanding that the body is a system of parts that are constantly in flux, influencing each other. Symptoms are underlying clues to underlying imbalances that you need to support through a holistic lens. Um, and so that's how I typically explain it.
Mhm. I love that. And I think an addition to that is understanding that the symptom that you may be experiencing may be caused by, or at least a big part of it may be caused by something that could be in a different system than
Mhm.
than the symptom is showing up. And that is a big part of holistic
Huge.
nutrition.
I tell people we call it, you got to look upstream. We
Yep,
tell people you don't just look at where the symptom is. You're like, wait, what is connected to that system? We
right.
need we need to go upstream because there could be some dysfunction up here leading to a symptom down here.
Yeah.
And so if you haven't gone through an extensive education program like the NTI or like other NAMP schools and understand the body and the systems, you definitely don't know everything there is to know about nutrition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
I've talked to folks on my master's and doctorate, and they are dietitians, and they're like, I had no idea. I had no idea. We just weren't taught this. I've had personal conversations, and I'm like, you didn't know this?
I, I would love it if you could probe your memory and just give us an idea of the topic that you're talking about that is so surprising.
It's almost every it's almost every topic actually, Diane, because every topic I think is taught differently through these two sides of the industry. And I think both have a place, both are great. They're meant to
Hmm.
help people. But
Sure.
when you get
Absolutely.
into functional, integrative, holistic nutrition, pathophysiology, and just understanding the systems, it's just incredible realizing that detoxification, on one side, they're like, that's not real. Detoxification, like, it's pointless. Like, no, our liver is a natural detoxifier, and clinical research has shown certain herbs. Again, these
Hmm.
are some things that they're like, oh, I had no idea. Certain
Oh, yeah.
herbs can help that.
Mm,
stimulate phase one, phase
mhm,
two, detox. Um, you know, in the way, this is a great analogy, I think, to maybe wrap up this. What is holistic nutrition? A great analogy I often use with clients, or our members at Holistic Consulting, to help them understand how the body is a system, and each system requires targeted nutrition support. And it's like a baker at a bakery. A baker cannot bake a cake without the proper ingredients, right? Flour, oil, sugar, eggs. You just can't do it. The body's the same way. If the thyroid doesn't get iodine, tyrosine, selenium, zinc, copper, vitamin A, you name it, it's not going to make adequate amounts of thyroid hormone. And it's really the beacon of your metabolism, the thyroid. And so each system has its own like package of ingredients it needs. And so, I mean, who off the street knows that? Like, knows which
mhm,
system, you know, requires each set of ingredients. So, yeah, you need to understand the systems before you understand the, how to support someone, I think.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I love that. That's great. That's a really good way of thinking about it. So let's move on. And you mentioned the NANP, the National Association of Nutrition Professionals, which we are a proud member of. And they offer um, the ability to take an exam to become board certified in holistic nutrition. And board certification is not required in order to practice, but it is strongly recommended. We recommend it to all of our graduates once they graduate from NTI to go on and do the board exam and become board certified. And part, it is an additional credential.
Mhm.
It's a kind of a premier level certification and title. But it helps, I think, with work opportunities. Just on a very simple, like, kind of financial level, right?
Yeah.
It helps with work opportunities. And so, can you talk about how board certification does that, and specifically, as you and I both know, there are different regulations about the practice of holistic nutrition in different states. And can you talk about, in your experience, are there certain benefits in particular states that board certification maintains their ability to practice more easily than without it?
Yeah, this is a great topic. And so, yeah, I think it's great to start with the fact that nutrition is state regulated.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing really supersedes that, right? You have to
Mm-hmm.
understand your state. And the
Mm-hmm.
NANP does a great job with that for your students and your listeners. They have an entire legislative affairs division. Laura Waldo is fantastic over
Yep.
there, the legislative affairs specialist. And there's a map that helps guide, folks into understanding the state laws. And so, understanding state regulation exists, understanding the resources available are crucial to start. The primary benefit of becoming board certified in holistic nutrition is really an increased credibility with employers and clients. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
talk a little bit about jobs and employment trends and things that I've seen here in a little bit. I'm sure we're going to get to that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I it scope scope of practice doesn't really increase when you get board certified. The state regulation is still in place.
Yes.
And they change a lot. So Ohio recently changed something. I was just talking to Laura a few weeks ago, and another state I think changed as well. And so it's good to stay up to date on these changes, and Laura does a great job, the NANP does a great job of doing that. Um, but yeah, should we talk a little bit about employment trends and what I've seen, like
Yeah.
how the board certification has helped with that a little bit?
Yes. Yeah. Let's move into that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so we've been doing this for 4 years again, and I've seen just incredible stories. And so, I've obviously private practice is booming among holistic nutrition professionals, and Sean in holistic consulting does a great job preparing students for that. He knows what he's doing. He has 3 brick and mortar companies and 3 or 4 virtual companies now. So he understands both sides of it. And so I've seen folks become really successful in private practice. And a lot of times, successful for folks is different, right? Some folks only have 5 or 10 hours a week, stay at home mom, they're working somewhere else. They only want 5 or 10, 15 hours a week, and they consider, booking their schedule out that amount of time successful. Other folks want to do it full time. We've seen that as well.
Mhm.
But besides private practice, I know everyone's probably like on the edge of their seat. They're like, I want to hear what jobs, holistic nutrition professionals have obtained. So 2 of our members have gone on to work for Dr. Josh Axe. He's a big name in the industry.
Yeah.
He recently bought a company, the Health Institute, or he started it. And so 2 of our members who one is about to become board certified and the other was board certified, and she was told by that company that's one of the things that sets you apart among all of the hundreds of applicants. And so both of them are really enjoying working for Dr. Josh Axe as a health practitioner or nutrition practitioner. I forget what their title is.
Mhm.
I've seen folks go on to work for WIC, depending on the state you live in. You don't have to be a dietitian to work for WIC, as
Mhm.
a nutrition consultant, a lactation consultant, health coaches, health coaching positions, health and wellness coaching positions. One of our members 6 months ago got a job as a wellness coordinator, focusing on employee wellness, corporate wellness. One of our members just had her second interview. I think she's going to get it for a baby formula company, like a really holistic, healthy baby formula,
Oh, great.
to be one of their advisors. I've seen folks become personal trainers and combine holistic nutrition in the gym, so to increase the services they can offer to their exercise clients. I've seen one of our members in New York became a farm to school nutrition coordinator. Um, I've seen one of our folks become a functional nutritionist out in Utah at a mental health therapy clinic. And that same individual received another job shortly after that as a weight loss coach for another company. Let me think. I've seen folks go on to work for natural grocers. I just
Mhm.
helped one of our members nail an interview with them. He's moving out to New Mexico to start working for natural grocers.
Mhm.
Um, and then I've seen folks with higher level degrees go on to become adjunct instructors. And so I've kind of seen it all. That's a snapshot, I'd say.
Mhm.
And I think becoming board certified, it sets you apart. I mean, it shows that you've met, rigorous standards. You meet continuing education requirements, national exam, and it's something that clients and employers can trust.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, well, it is good to hear about the employment opportunities that are out there because that is, one of the biggest questions that people ask. Because once again, going back to kind of registered dietitian compared to holistic nutrition professionals, registered dietitian, it's a 4-year college degree, 2-year master's, and then, depending on the state you live in, most states require that you go through the licensure process to become licensed. But once you become a registered dietitian, you have that title, you can put your name out there, da 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 da, registered dietitian, and pretty much most people, when they see that, they're gonna understand what that means, right? Registered dietitian.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, someone's gonna tell me, you know, what foods to eat, or to eat low
Hmm.
fat, or to whatever. Um, but in holistic nutrition, as you were sort of alluding to earlier, we don't have that luxury. We don't get to ride on the coattails of our title. We have to actually advocate for ourselves and articulate what we know and what our skills are and what our knowledge base is, and how we can help people, and how we can provide them with guidance and suggestions, and all the things that we do to help them achieve their optimal wellness goals and whatever their pain point is or whatever they're looking for. So having that board certification, um, it is still not a household name. You know, the average person doesn't know. Not only do they not know what a holistic nutrition professional is, but they don't know what the title board certified in holistic nutrition is. And so there is still some self advocacy that needs to happen. But I think having that board certification, at least particularly for employment purposes, is really beneficial. But do you want to come back and kind of say anything else about, what I'm talking about us having to advocate for ourselves? Because that is really what it boils down to when people say, well, what can you do with this? How can you make a living in holistic nutrition? The very first step is getting the education, having the knowledge, the academic knowledge to be able to do this. As you were saying, understand the body systems, understand all that stuff. But then the very next step is you have to be able to formulate a way to describe and clearly explain to people what you can do and how smart
Yeah.
you are, because it's not going to come across just in your title.
Yeah, you have to become a master at articulation and you have to know your elevator pitch.
Yes.
And so, we work with folks a little bit on this too, but if you know what holistic nutrition means to you, to like in the industry, what does it mean to, that's the first step so you can explain it in a practical and, like powerful way to prospective clients or employers. So it's important to know what it is and you have to be able to portray or articulate your value to someone. And you have to help folks understand. This is just one example that you could explain to someone that healthy foods for one person may not be healthy for the other person, which is why general conventional nutrition education it's obsolete now with the
Mm-hmm.
technology we have. um, folks folks respond to foods differently,
Mm-hmm.
and organic sprouted whole wheat bread could be essential and healthy for one person, and then the other person, like my wife, might have anti-gliadin antibodies through the roof and get eczema by eating organic and sprouted whole wheat bread.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
understanding that healthy food it does not is not healthy across the board
Right.
anymore. We are
Right.
different. Our biochemistry is different. And you have to really explain I think folks resonate well with their pain points. So if you
Mm-hmm.
learn that someone is struggling with headaches and some skin issues, you have to be able to connect their issues with nutrition. And we talked a
Yep.
little bit about that, like knowing the systems, knowing how nutrition plays a part in those systems.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the education, like you said, going through a robust educational program is really essential for the first step, because you will not be able to articulate your worth to someone unless you have that foundational knowledge first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Board certification is a great step. It increases your
Mm-hmm.
credibility. But
Absolutely.
I think you might have been leading into to like, once you get your education and let's say you also got board certified, it's the industry may still seem to be set up for dietitians, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So some key skills that you really need to practice as a holistic nutritionist when you enter that industry if you want to get traction quick. And again, we've been doing this for 4 years. We see what works, what doesn't. Is you have to network a little bit more. You have to
Mm-hmm.
make networking a weekly or a monthly thing. You have to be very consistent. Don't be the person that goes to the conference twice a year, once a year.
Mm-hmm.
Weekly. We have a whole course on LinkedIn and how to leverage LinkedIn. We have and any of your members that want access to our free 30-day career roadmap program, happy to, it's right on our website. I'll share it at the end, but we go over some of these things, how to create an outreach email to companies that may not be hiring publicly, but maybe you really want to work for this company. how do you reach out to them and express your interest? So you really need to network. You have to be proactive. Don't wait for things to come to you. You have to go and find it. I'll share a personal story here for almost all of these in a minute. And then resilience, I think, is key because you're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to face those moments when you're like, should I just throw in the towel? I was just having a conversation this week with someone, and she's like, I was almost giving up. I was just feeling so busy. And then I got a client, and she got a job and she got a client like within the same like month, and everything's taken off for her. And so resilience and I'll tell you another resilience story. The individual who became a functional nutritionist at a mental health therapy clinic and a weight loss coach, and now she's getting her master's. She was at a point in our program where she was about to go back to her old career as a nurse. She just kept getting no's on job applications. Um, and we said, you need to stick it out. You're doing everything right. You got to be resilient. You got to, and she did. And a month later, she got a hit. And the next month, she got another hit. And now she's got 2 jobs and she's getting a master's degree too. Um, so networking, being proactive, resiliency, and overall, you just need to be a little more creative and think outside the box as a holistic nutrition professional to gain traction. Um, if you're just starting out, I know people want to know this, Diane. What are some things you can do when you're just starting out? And I've been
Mhm.
there. And I've seen a lot of folks go through those first few months. And some of the key things you can do to get traction for those first few months when you're just starting out is, yeah, find a mentor, find someone that can help you, but say yes to every opportunity that comes your
Mhm.
way early, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I'll tell you a story here with that one. So I'm transitioning from the military and I'm in grad school, and I know I need residency hours to get my certification in grad school. And I know I'm like starting from the bottom up. I was pretty high up in the military. Now I'm starting in the bottom and in this like what is functional holistic nutrition industry.
Mhm.
And the grad school I went to sent out like monthly career digest emails with opportunities for graduates and alumni and students. And there was one for like a possible internship. It was like a research internship. And I bought into like say yes to everything, go all out, look for any opportunity is good. So I clicked it. I applied to this weird research internship. The guy emailed or called me up, or he emailed me, set up a call. He's like, "You're not a good fit at all for this, but I've got something else I haven't advertised."
Ah.
And he said, "This is Dr. Christy Adamo over at the University of Maryland." Um, and they used to have a center for integrative medicine, but he works for the School of Medicine now. And he says, I'm starting the first mandatory nutrition program for medical doctors or
Wow.
future medical doctors at
Mhm.
UMD. And do you want to be part of it? I was like, yeah. And
Mhm.
so for 2 years during my master's, I got teaching experience, which really helped catapult my career later because I send an email. I was open to a position that really didn't seem that exciting. I picked up the phone and had a real conversation with someone in the field, aka networking, trying to get your listeners right. You got to
Mhm.
network. Um,
Mhm.
had a
Mhm.
conversation and something kind of fell into my lap. It was unpaid. I went for it for 2 years anyways. It bolstered my resume. I made a bunch of connections. It led to a teaching assistant job, then a curriculum development job, and then a professor job, and now leadership position. So it really catapulted my teaching career, and it just came down to networking and being open and saying yes.
Mhm.
The other thing that's helped people, Diane, that I've noticed is be a little flexible when you're starting out. Um, a lot of folks get discouraged with a lot of no's when they're trying to find employment with a background in holistic nutrition because they're too focused on the positions they're applying to. Find the right company when you're starting out. If you're having trouble, focus on the right company, not the role. You can always lateral within the company later. And I've seen this work for people. One of the folks that went to work for Dr. Josh Axe, she actually started in his sales department and she didn't like it, but she crushed her job. She did great, positive team player. transition to a nutrition practitioner for Dr. Josh Axe.
Mhm.
And I've seen this other places as well, is get in with a great company that has similar values to you, meets what you're looking for, and you just never know. You just never know what's next. It could build to
Mhm.
something else. So being flexible, saying yes to everything, finding a mentor, these are all just like key things that you should do.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you point out that that first opportunity that you took was unpaid, because I think
Yep.
sometimes um, people may feel, I don't know, whatever, like they're being that their knowledge and their skills are being discredited when they're being asked to do something for free. And um, it doesn't mean that, and it is still a good way to get experience even if you're not getting paid.
It is. We talk to folks in our program about having an abundance mindset when you're switching careers and you're starting out. A lot of folks, they look at things as, oh, that's an extra expense, or oh, that position's unpaid, or oh, that's not worth my time. You need to flip that way of thinking into, wow, that's a great opportunity that has a lot of potential for career growth if I stick with it and make some connections. Oh,
Hmm.
that costs a little bit of money, but man, having a business coach to help me set up a business, I know nothing about business. That would really help me for 1 year if this is
Hmm.
something I want to do with my career.
Hmm.
So we talk to folks about having an abundance mindset with
Hmm.
everything you do if you want to be
Hmm.
successful.
Hmm. One thing that I would appreciate if you would clarify, holistic consulting, your business,
Yeah.
you only work with people who have gone through school already. You are not training people from scratch to be nutrition therapists. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we primarily work with graduates of NANP schools. We've had a
Okay.
few naturopathic doctors join
Mm-hmm.
us.
Mm-hmm.
We've had one chiropractor join us.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had those one-off situations. We've had people that are about to graduate school that want to start a little early, but they've got that foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but no, we're really the bridge between a school. We're not an NANP school. That's what
Right.
the
Right.
NTI is,
Yes.
right? We are the bridge between your school and board certification and your career. If you need a little extra support with that journey, right? When the day you step out of school to
Yeah.
the time you start making traction is, yeah,
Okay, good. And that I mean I'm pretty sure I knew that, but I just
yeah,
wanted to make
yeah.
sure that our listeners know that, because
That's right.
um that's important to point out. And back to kind of getting an education, um a lot of people think that, oh, I do a lot of self-study,
Hmm.
and I read books and I read whatever. I don't even know, like these days, like in my day it was like I read magazines, I read newspaper, like I
It's
read all this
podcasts
stuff, I
now.
go to the library. But so it's kind of this like self-directed ad hoc education. And so it's not that someone who's doing that self-study can come to your program. They have to have graduated already from an in-depth, rigorous educational program.
Yeah, I don't think we've had anyone. We've had to turn folks away that just find us and they think that they can just become board certified through us. We're like, no, 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 you got to go to school first.
Yeah.
We've had some folks just use our business training program with Sean for maybe they're a health coach and
Hmm.
or a personal trainer. But if you're
Hmm.
coming through for, board certification and that
Hmm.
side of our program,
Hmm.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
We don't just take people off the internet. No.
Yeah. 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 Because as you're saying, you have to have that
Yeah.
deep, rigorous knowledge to even be able to pursue work in the field. And without that, you're going to be floundering.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No,
Okay.
it's great. And I mean, programs like yours, they're essential because self-paced study, it's good, right? It's good to like get
Hmm.
in there and study. I think the big thing now is podcasts. People turn on the podcast and they listen. And, these doctors that run the podcast, they're really good at articulating the current research and things, simplifying it down, which is great. It's great.
Hmm.
But you
Hmm.
really need to learn how to read research yourself. We have a whole course on reading research.
Yeah.
and how to conduct research.
Hmm.
Because any recommendations you make to clients, you really need to back up with peer-reviewed research.
Hmm.
And so I think programs, schools like yours that offer the live instruction and mentorship and guidance, and it's not completely self-paced, it's essential. It's just
Hmm.
essential.
Hmm. Yeah. And just to be clear, we do have a self-paced option, but it is still our
Yeah,
curriculum, our material, our recorded lectures. But it is not a self-guided ad hoc
right.
learning. It is true, rigorous academic education.
Yeah, it's put together by experts. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's what you need.
Yeah.
You know, there's
Yeah.
too much out there in the world now to know what you can trust and what you can. I mean, this doctor has this opinion about eggs and this one, and so yeah, you really need to find someone that is unbiased, and
Yeah.
puts together a qualified program. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way I talk about that is, there's so much information out there. We do not live in an environment where we have lack of information
Hmm.
at this point. There is so much information out there. Um, all the podcasts, like everybody has a podcast, right? Everybody does
Everyone.
podcasts. If they don't have their own that they're hosting, they're a guest on podcasts, multiple podcasts. Um, but it's still really easy for kind of a layperson who doesn't have this foundational understanding of, you know, human anatomy and physiology and biochemistry, and they don't understand the systems, they don't understand the digestive system and the cardio, like they can't identify the structures and the mechanisms of how these systems work. It's easy for them to get confused. And, I always talk about the way I got into this is it was before, the internet 25 years ago. And I didn't have a lot of access to all kinds of information. But I was trying to consume, doing my own sort of, you know, self self-learning process to read all I could and all that kind of stuff. But I still felt like I was being, and the way I verbalize it is I felt like I was being dragged around by other people's philosophical dogmatic beliefs about health and wellness and nutrition. And I needed to go to school so that I could come from a place of actually knowing how the body works and knowing how nutrients interact with human biochemical pathways, rather than believing what someone else is saying, you should eat this or you shouldn't eat that, because of their philosophical beliefs and their
Hmm.
dogmatic beliefs, but not necessarily because of how nutrients interact with human biochemistry. And that's really what was a key part of my wanting to seek out formal, official, academic education. And now I don't feel like I'm being dragged around. I can listen to all the stuff and I can assess for myself the credibility and the reliability of what I'm hearing, because I know all of that foundational information that we've been talking about. And I'm not being dragged around anymore by anyone else, anything else that someone is saying, because I know how to make those decisions. So that's
That's
how I
awesome.
talk about it.
Yeah, and I mean, you said it perfectly. Another reason why folks should seek out that reputable education, because your clients, your friends, your family, employers, they're going to have questions. What do you think about this? I just heard this on the news. I just saw this blog. I just listened to this podcast, and they're saying this about nutrition, about this
Right.
specific topic. You need to be able to answer those questions the rest of your career through an
Hmm.
unbiased, evidence-based, you know, mindset where you also understand the biochemical pathways. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's so important to get that education.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about kind of looking forward. You
Yeah.
mentioned that private practice is really booming. And what I see is, my way of talking about this is nutrition has made it to the main stage. I mean, there are top level people in this country who are talking about how our food impacts our health. And this has opened the eyes of so many people. And I think it's great that the eyes are being opened by so many people, and they're now perhaps being, um, being taken to a place where they are starting to question perhaps what they believe. They're questioning food labels. They're
Yep.
questioning, the quality of the ingredients and all that kind of stuff. And they never would have done that 5 years ago. Certainly not, 10 years ago, but even 5 years ago, they never would have done that. And I think that this creates a huge opportunity for those of us in the holistic nutrition world. So what's your like if you had to get a crystal ball, which everyone says, I don't try to predict the future, and I'm not asking you that, but like how do you see like this holistic nutrition thing playing out in the next handful of years?
Yeah, this is great. I think to start, more and more consumers are realizing, like you said, that a targeted nutrition approach is needed. And that's because of the knowledge that is just being dumped on us, the information, and we're realizing that one size does not fit all. A lot of people are seeking alternative methods to support their health. I think mental health support is going to boom. It's already booming. I think all this technology, I don't think, I know all this technology that's coming out, functional testing, all of this stuff in the industry, it's making people realize I need to work with someone that understands nutrition and the body in a deeper way. I don't just want a generic Mediterranean diet. I
Yeah.
want to understand specifically my biochemistry, what markers are off, what phytonutrients are like. Most people don't know about phytonutrients either, right? We could talk. I'll do a whole podcast on that. There's
Yeah.
macronutrients, micronutrients, there's phytonutrients. So I think the demand for um, just the holistic health, holistic nutrition professional is going to grow. People are already looking for more acupuncture and more this and more that. I think the demand for these holistic nutrition professionals in the industry is going to grow steadily. I think, year by year, the NAMP does a great job of with advocacy. I think, all of us, the NTI Holistic Consulting, we get the word out. Sean, for example, owns a gym and he's now hiring some of our members to do nutrition in his gym in DC. And so, the word is getting out, and I just had to chat with someone yesterday. She works for a really big gym in Texas, just got a job. And when she mentioned she was board certified, her clients' eyes are like, oh, whoa, board certified.
Yeah.
Um, that's different,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, crystal ball wise, everything takes time, but having like holistic health coaches, holistic nutrition professionals, at the gym level, at the doctor's office level, in the hospital, um, I think we're gonna slowly see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do too. I do
I mean,
too. I
you
think
already
this
see the VA. The VA's already got a whole holistic health side.
really,
Just
I
so you
didn't
know,
know
yeah,
that.
yeah, they have a whole holistic health. I forget what it's called, but being a veteran, I always keep tabs on the VA. And yeah, so you already
Sure.
see they're kind of realizing the importance of holistic health for the veterans.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and something that I think is important to mention, and I just thought of it that we didn't really talk about that is a component of holistic health
Yeah.
and this holistic view is that I think um, there is more about being preventative and certainly more discussion around being preventative in the holistic world than there is in kind of traditional conventional medical work, as well as registered dietitians. When you get recommended to go to a registered dietitian, it's a doctor or a nurse or a
Yeah.
hospital that's recommending you go see a registered dietitian because they have diagnosed you with a condition. And now you're being reactive rather than proactive. And in holistic health, holistic nutrition and holistic nutrition professionals, one of the I think the biggest benefits is that we can be able to recognize through someone's diet and kind of the symptoms that they're showing, we can recognize how to be proactive in staving off potential consequences, health consequences of making poor dietary choices. And I think that's a really important feature.
I think that's going to grow too. I think awareness around disease prevention and interest in preventing diseases that maybe someone has a family,
Yes.
history of. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's going to grow with all of this technology, all this information that's coming out. People are becoming more aware of the importance of nutrition. Hopefully we see a shift in prevention rather than treatment.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right. Well, I'm looking at the time here, David. I am so pleased that you were here with us today. Let's finish out
Yeah.
by you're obviously a busy guy and have a thriving business now here, maybe more than one. I don't know if you have doing more than one thing with new holistic consulting, but um, just for people's uh, kind of to look at you as an expert in this field, talk about something that you do in your life that you commit to doing regularly, whether that's daily or once a week or whatever, that keeps you sane and grounded and achieving your own optimal health goals.
Yeah, this is great, Diane. I do a few things, and I know everybody's day looks a little different. Some people work in an office, some people work at home. So, it depends. But for me, I always do meals with my family, breakfast, lunch, dinner. I try to do a daily walk with my wife in the neighborhood. We both work at home. It's a blessing. And, just getting outside consistently. I've got chickens, I've got a garden. So
Mm,
stepping outside in between meetings, in between project work, and family time for me, for sure.
mhm, mhm. Lovely. I love it. All right, we'll talk about how people can find out more about holistic consulting, all of your handles and all of the stuff that people should be looking for online.
Yeah, yeah. I don't do social media really except LinkedIn. So
Great.
one, connect with me on LinkedIn,
Okay.
David Feuz. And two, my email is david at holisticconsultinghq.com. And I'll give you all of this information too, Diane. You can
Yeah.
post it. Our
Yeah.
website, which has our free 30-day career roadmap course, information on our programs, is holisticconsultinghq.com. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's really the
Okay.
best ways to reach me. I recommend, if this is something you want to do, if you're an alumni of NTI, if you're someone thinking about going to NTI, reach out, have a conversation with me, shoot me an email. It's the first step with networking.
Mm-hmm.
Take action. We always tell
Mm-hmm.
people, take action and reach out, pick up the phone like I did that one time, send an
Mm-hmm.
email. You never know where it's going to lead.
Mm-hmm. Love it. All right. Well, David, thank you so much. You are a wealth of information, which I greatly appreciate. You're also a great resource for our graduates who are looking to uh, find their way. Once they leave NTI, we provide them with a lot of information here, but I definitely agree that there is still the chance to needs a little bit more support, and I think you guys do a great job of that. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Diane.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Thanks. All righty. Bye-bye. Hi, Dianne Koehler here again. If you found this conversation interesting and haven't already become a student at NTI, check us out at ntischool.com. We hope to see you soon.